Artist Exchange,
The Artist Exchange, The Artist Exchange, The Artist Exchange,
The Artist Exchange,
The Artist Exchange Live,
The Artist Exchange, The Artist Exchange,
The Artist Exchange
Starts now.
Artist Exchange,
The Artist Exchange, The Artist Exchange, The Artist Exchange.
Hey, what's up, people? I think you can hear me. Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Can you hear me? I think so. Since we're sharing out the show. Let's see. Hey, what's up? This is Nate, host of the Artist Exchange Podcast. I am not on camera this evening. I've been uh, battling with the flu, and I'm at like the tail end of it. But ugh, uh, I'm just not camera ready today. But I have a great show for you today. It's going to be a little bit shorter. We have one guest coming in, Mr. Terrai Kiley. I used to work with him when he was on the Be Inspired radio show. He was one of the co-hosts. I recently have gotten to see him perform a couple times, and he was just in a production last year, Punktopia. Um, and did a phenomenal job. And I wanted to bring him on here, but time didn't permit, and I changed platforms. So now he's going to be on here shortly. But before I do, I wanted to reiterate, as I do every show, take care of yourself. Take care of the people around you that you've been blessed with, and that you've chosen to be in your space. I'm really excited about what is to come. And I was saying that all last year, knowing that I was in the space of having to make a big decision, and I didn't know what that would mean to me or the work that I've been putting in. Um, and it really has been, it's been challenging. I wouldn't say difficult, but it definitely has been challenging. And I have more, not necessarily decisions, but some more hurdles that I'm jumping um, over in the next couple months. And I am moving through those things with the grace that I was raised with, and just the understanding that nothing would be put on me or put in front of me, or I I'm being put through that I could not handle. I definitely am very much so a God fearing man. I my faith is in a space of no matter what I'm going through, I've learned to go through it with just humility and grace, and just a determination that is unmatched. Uh, it only gets stronger as I get older. Um, and I've been saying all last year, because it's more of a reality to me because of this pandemic. Because I had to spend, I think, 3 birthdays. Uh, the first two were basically in the house. Um, uh, I was blessed. The second year, I was able to spend it with a really good friend who um, moved mountains to at least make my day special for me. Uh, and then last year, I was able to spend it with some friends, a really close group of friends out of the house. But it was really tough spending your day like that, or just spending time like that, period. But it gave me a lot of time to be able to think about what's important to me, what matters to me, what uh, what mistakes I had made, what things I needed to change, people I needed to, reconnect with or separate from, if you will. I think Azrael is here, and I'm really excited to talk to him and see what's new in his world. So once he comes back on his camera, then I'll be able to bring him on. So as you see, things are changing and evolving and growing. We have a couple shows on the network, on this network spaces platform now. Tuesdays, you'll see Um, Tuesdays with myself and G. Oliver. You'll see the Binge Worthy podcast, which has been going on since the very beginning of the pandemic, maybe like towards the end of that first year of the pandemic. And then Wednesdays is this show at 8 p.m. And then on Saturdays, we have IMC podcast that started kind of midway through the pandemic. In the spring, we'll be bringing Cocktail Social on with Mr. Blue Waters and some special guests. And then we have a couple more things that are being planned in terms of timing and uh, just helping those individuals to kind of produce it. If you're watching the show tonight, please like, share, and subscribe to our YouTube page. It's no longer the Artist Exchange Radio Show YouTube page. It's called the Artist Exchange Media Hub. And you'll be able to find all of the past shows. We are steadily uploading previous uh, episodes of the Artist Exchange Show. All of the other shows that are on this platform will also be on there. And then whenever we do special events, those things will be added as well. So stay tuned for those things. I want to now bring on this gentleman. Hey,
Hey,
sir.
hey, what's up?
How's it going?
It's going. It's pretty stressful, but it's definitely going.
You said you wanted to be an adult, sir, and this is what adulting, a long line of just decisions and money to be spent.
Hate
So
it
hold on, let me bring this up.
with
So
a
I'm not prepared
passion.
for this game. I'm kind of, as I told you, I'm recovering from. I don't, and I typically don't even get sick. So I don't even know where this came from. But uh, wash your hands, people, and you know, take all the precautions. With that being said, how are you doing, sir?
I'm doing okay.
You
A little
doing
stressed out, but I'm here.
okay? Well, you supposed to be the positive one, sir.
Oh no, I'm never the positive one. I'm very negative. What?
No, we can't do that, sir. We can't go into adulthood being negative anymore. That's an old school thing. We can't. Pessimism is gone. It's outdated.
Ah,
Not cool anymore.
I mean,
Uh,
like with the rates of anxiety and depression, it seems like, that's the hot new thing.
and I definitely agree with that. And I only agree that it is a thing now. But as I'm learning, because I'm getting a little bit older, you still have to have and should have a positive, forward moving outlook, despite what you're going through. And it's not so much you getting rid of or ignoring the things that are happening to you, but it's really it is in your benefit to still keep a balance. And no matter what's going on, you still have to be forward thinking and forward um, moving in your disposition. That's just my opinion. Some people deal with life much differently, but I've just learned no matter what, just keep moving. Um, and it's only gonna get worse if you stress or worry or that anxiety gets the best of you, and that's normal. But we have to work against it. So I've been watching you both perform and your social media. So I've been seeing what's been going on. I've been seeing you grow in terms of being an artist. I was very pleasantly surprised to see you in the Funky show. Um, but
Yeah, that
how
was dope.
since you left the world of podcasting and radio?
You said, how's it been since
Mm-hmm.
then? Um,
Because you're an adult now, you can't claim just a teenager. Can't claim that anymore. That's
y-
over.
yeah, it's been crazy. Um, just on a personal tip, I was able like to get some distance from my family, which really helped out, in
Mm-hmm.
the long run. In terms of music, I just, created more. I was in more rooms and more places.
Hmm.
Me and Rice became cool, and then me and Dre became cool, and we made the group Wish You Were Here, and then since then, everyone's just been loving this.
So the question that I have for you tonight is really in line with just where we are, and let's say your generation, and just in as artists in general, because you mentioned maybe some family issues and just dealing with life differently now and making choices for you now. What I'm noticing, especially from my students, that a lot of young people are dealing with issues that are much bigger than their experience. And that's not necessarily a new thing, but it's I've noticed that it's more and more um, young people than it used to be, say when I was in my 20s or as a teenager. Um, how are you working through or balancing your art life with working and the business of being an artist and still having to go through it? How are you dealing with it?
Um, to be quite honest, I'm not. My old boss always told me that everything you do in life is a sacrifice. If you have two options, you
Mm,
choosing one is sacrificing like the other, and they're only being 24 hours in a day. If you're gonna work nonstop, you have to sacrifice something, but that's unhealthy. I wouldn't ever recommend that for anybody. I'm still personally seeking my own balance.
mhm. How are you going about knowing that?
um Trying to be more aware of like certain responsibilities, and planning for them,
Mhm.
I guess, more effectively.
It can be difficult, I know, and not even making this a sex thing, but it I know for black men, it just seems like there's so many expectations for us that time does not care about those things. And then the world, they look at you as this almost like a machine. And the moment that machine begins to break down, then you are null and void. And how do you keep yourself relevant? And how do you keep yourself moving beyond just what everybody else thinks? How do you keep yourself moving? One of the things that is most important to me are words. I try not to speak words that are negative or make a situation worse. And again, it's not about faking it till you make it or lying to yourself, but you have to speak honesty and truth and power into everything you do. Because if we don't do that, then we'll stay in depression, we'll stay in struggle, we'll stay in all those things. And I'm just noticing a lot of young people are more comfortable than my generation and the generations ahead of me. They are more comfortable. You all are more comfortable speaking to your struggle and to your pain, but I don't see any resolution or any um, system of getting better. Is that Do you see that as a truth, or am I just
So
looking from a different perspective?
I feel like it's a little bit of both. I feel like every situation is its own, like, but for the most part, a lot of people in my generation, we deal with, like situations that are bigger than us,
Hmm.
like, so a lot of people are taught, even me, how important the concept of family is, like, but it's hard to stay with family when your family is your trigger, like, so, a lot of these problems are like generational problems that we kind of end up like taking upon ourselves because we are a generation where it's really being talked about. you know, and it can
Mhm.
get a little overwhelming for a lot of people. In my side of things, I just kind of dropped out of the relationship, like for certain members, I'm completely, and that was okay for me. But, you
Do you
know,
are you able to? And I've been speaking on grace a lot lately and understanding what that means to an individual in terms of giving and taking grace. Um, it's hard to, and I see the gap. And I was just talking to someone who I consider a mentor now, and I've been telling him over the last year and a half, almost 2 years now, what is missing from today is strong mentorship, consistent mentorship, non-toxic mentorship, where it's just about the growth of an individual and not anything beyond that. And what happened was, I believe a lot of mentors began to compete with the person that they should have been mentoring versus and that's just people trying to stay relevant because that word and that phrase came about and now everybody got to get their own bag and nobody's comfortable with their level of success. They got to have it all and they got to keep getting it. Um, and then the young people are coming up with this idea that it's their turn and you need to sit down and give. So both sides are fighting each other. What I'm realizing with, say, your generation and maybe the ones even younger than you, there isn't anybody to really give honest feedback. So you guys and ladies aren't even comfortable with receiving support, let alone criticism.
yeah,
And I think that's what keeps that generation from really moving. And it's a scary thing because I'm teaching babies now who are showing signs of that already. And they are in a space where they don't even know what they're feeling. It's just naturally coming from them. Um, how has your art been able to help you in these moments of growth? Because that's all it is growth, is life giving you lessons, and it feels like you're getting them the hard way every time, but that's just that's just life. Until you start repeating a lot of those cycles, it's going to feel hard every time.
right.
Until you start understanding the cycle and the patterns. But back to the question, how has your art either helped you, or do you see it as a tool to help you, or are you
Uh,
just not there yet?
yeah, I've always seen it as kind of like a tool to process of my feelings. I actually listened to a song by Saba. It's called Calligraphy, and it's about how, as an artist, you write all of your problems away, and I
Mm.
adopted that and it really helps, like I'll really be, like toiling over a ton of stuff. And then I just like make a beat, and I sit and I write like a ton of lines to it. And eventually I feel better, you know?
But how do you live? How will you live outside of that bubble? Meaning, can you survive without the struggle? Or is it the
Um,
struggle that's bringing forth that creativity? What would happen once that struggle dissipates?
See, that's actually a really good question. Because I was actually just talking to someone about someone like that. But I've I've lived outside of that struggle for a bit, and it is a different flow of creativity, like to where when you have a lot of problems, you have like a ton of fuel, but to not have any problems, it's like you're speaking from a new place, like when I was doing it, I was just trying to branch out, and do something different, trying to expand in a sense.
It is it is hard watching someone your age from my age perspective, go through similar things and not, and it's almost as if the way people used to be able to step in and support, that's not a open door anymore. One, because everyone is feeling super sensitive and um, triggered, and it's hard to really step in. How could someone support you in this space in terms of helping you move forward? How in best case scenario, what would help look like to you now?
I mean, help at this point would literally be, since music is like mostly a money game, it would just be like a marketing budget. Like something that simple could really change an entire career, like not even only mine, any artist.
Okay. I know at one point working and building that type of capital was very important to you.
Y-
But I think at that time you were trying to help so many people that you wasn't necessarily planning for yourself. And I
y-
think you kind of early on skipped over a selfish phase in trying to help everybody else. Is that still a thing for you, or have you worked through that?
um a little bit of both, and I'm glad you asked that because it tied into what you said earlier about, um, how people are in a very like sensitive mindset about their art. I
Hmm.
I pretty much carry a mentality. I'm not one to go out of my way to help a person. However, if I see that you're actively helping yourself, I'm like the two artists I work with now. I don't have to always ask them, hey, what new song are you working on? Like, what are you doing? They're blowing my phone up like to semi annoying levels, like trying to tell me all of the stuff that they're doing and already have planned out, like so I love helping people. However, I'm not gonna help you if you're just doing this as a hobby, you know and I feel like to reach out and get more help, even like for mentors who might be listening, you can't be afraid of them being too sensitive about it, because at the end of the day, however they feel about it, they'll sit down and they'll realize that you have knowledge that can take them somewhere that they're not.
Mm. Well, one of the interesting thing that I notice about people in general, specifically 20 somethings, teens in today's world, and this isn't all about bashing the 20 somethings or the younger people, but what I've noticed is you all seem to only listen to someone who is rich and famous. And if a person doesn't show signs of success in terms of what society shows you as a success, you're not listening. And I see a lot of people avoiding becoming a mentor because of that. Because it's hard to get through to somebody when, you know, you don't have Bill Gates money or you don't have Jay-Z success. It's really hard to get through to a young person in today's world if you don't have the things that equal to outward success. So
I
somebody
mean,
who has failed and been there, done that is like, you're not relevant. You
I
have
mean,
it.
yeah,
Hmm.
yeah. I feel like that's because, like to start, most mentors, especially if you didn't succeed, they're not always willing to acknowledge where they failed at. Like if I'm a boxer, right? I mean, you're my coach, and you're like, oh yeah, I didn't go pro because I hurt myself doing like this. That creates a level of respect and transparency. You feel me? Like to know it's not a matter of skill. There's more to it than just, you feel me? Like unboxing or the music, it also expands their mind to realize that, like it's also a business. It's not just one dimensional, but it is pretty hard to compete with like rich people, like, but that's also the programming that we've been taught by pretty much the boomers, because their whole, like mindset is, hey, we did great, so you have to listen to us and you'll get everything that we got. But it
Time
does.
is definitely not in that space anymore. And I feel like there are plenty of barriers that have kept that mindset from becoming widespread. Look at where we're at now, where, you know, um, the price of rent is far more than the average person can afford. So where do people go? You can't just move if you can't afford to even move.
Right.
But um, it's interesting because I've been wanting to have this conversation. I took a little absence from the school system because it was stressful trying to get through to students. But hearing you say transparency seems to be a good key. But for me, I think I think how we see transparency is the misunderstanding. Because often, we were taught to fake it till we make it. So you have to still create the appearance of I'm okay. And sometimes that can be misleading to someone who sees that, hey, this person has it all, but they just not there. So why aren't they there? And you're
Right.
telling me if people in that position were to be more honest about where they fell short, then that would create a stronger bond between the generations. And I value that. I understand that. Uh, but I just think a lot of people.
Actually,
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Uh, I actually think it goes a little deeper than that too, because like at least like from my own experience, adults or like generations above ours, they're always like demanding respect, and
Hmm.
some of them can be pretty like disrespectful, you know, s- so it's created also a chip on our shoulder to where it's like they feel like I'm opposition, like so it's like things like, that transparency bring that guard down and it makes them more like respectable, and I feel like that's really what it's all about. You can't
But
just
sometimes that can be seen as a weakness amongst people in your age group. You've been in a classroom where you knew you had a good teacher, but people were just hell bent on not respecting that person. And then you look up one day and they decide they don't want to come back anymore. So I think both sides, one, have to understand the delivery is very important to both sides, but also that commonality of respect. That the idea of giving it to receive it. And you know, I've seen similarities in you and I understand you can be a good person and you can be creative. And then you can be in the midst of people who just all over the place. And then you kind of fall through the cracks of that sometimes. How do you feel in terms of building? How confident do you feel today building yourself up as an artist? Or are you just doing it until you get to that point? Where are you on that spectrum?
I'm like 1,000% I'm confident. I already see it as a reality.
Uh huh.
um Yeah, I mean, that's the best way to describe it. Like every tarot reading I get with or without my permission, it tells me the same thing. I'm going to be rich and successful. Since I was in middle school and I was like practicing and learning all of this, I just knew, it just was never, a doubt really.
So you see the goal, but do you see the road to that goal? Or
Yeah,
is that what you're uncovering right now?
clear. The road's clear as day, and that's why I said earlier, the biggest thing that could help any artist is something as simple as a marketing budget, you know, because like you can make all of the great music you want, all of your songs can be hits, but everyone in the industry will tell you it takes a certain amount of money to even break through because you have to pay for all of the radio ads, you know, the playlist placements and like all of that kind of stuff.
I think I understand where that comes from because that's been where we've been. And I think my generation kind of uh, went through that phase, but I think the transparency of what the system is starting to break down. You know, one of the biggest nights in music of the year is now not looked at as much as it used to be. And I'm speaking about the Grammys that we just witnessed, but systems like that are breaking down because that's a business. You know,
Hmm.
that is, a machine being able to monopolize and pour in their artists versus the everyday artists that are independent, that are out here connecting with people one on one, aren't being seen in those awards. So I think the systems of look what's happening to radio, podcasters came in and put it in a chokehold. And the only thing that radio still has over podcasts is the ability to be able to play music. And but that's even going to have to change soon, because artists have to realize, in order to get your music heard by people, you have to have a conduit. Somebody has to play it so people can hear it. So you can't keep it as tight. But that's going to move radio completely off the table if they don't learn how to adapt and move forward. But also, I feel like those things that you just mentioned are those systems aren't systems anymore. And simply to have a marketing budget is great, but if you aren't engaging with people, if you aren't building organic fan bases up, you won't you won't ever be able to compete with a machine, because we've seen people who have it and have not done any of those things that are supposed to be done. Do you see them as much? Nah, you don't, but you still know who they are. You still you If they are not at award shows or on the charts, you still know who they are, because those are the people that come to your city and perform. Those are the people who are active on their social media. Those are the people who we see, you know, on a daily basis versus the people who try to remain distant and, behind the veil of success. But I think,
See,
as, as you were mentioning, I think a lot of those things that you mentioned are starting to crumble. So
yeah.
it's not going to take that same amount of money to push an album or a single as it used to be. But because I think people are starting to learn what the internet is and what social media is and what social capital is. And I think if art, especially independent black artists, if we focus on our social capital and building that organically, not buying likes, not buying a certain amount of people on your social media, not just giving away everything. Once we learn what social capital is and how to angle it for our individual uh, best case scenario, I think artists will be much better off. And that's something that I'm pushing. And the reason I continue to do this, one of the reasons I went independent and now I'm doing my podcast on my own, is because I had to get outside of a bubble that was not feeding me
Right.
and was only there for its own use. And I had to figure that out on my own. And I'm just as talented with or without it. But I think,
Right.
especially black artists, we need to figure out, one, how to build our ecosystem with each other, and how to focus on our individual social capital. And that's how our supporters bring value to us and not the other way, you know. And I think some
Yeah.
artists got it, some artists get it, but a lot of those artists aren't good artists necessarily. So
Yes, I totally agree. You know, but I think it's also a pretty like layered, you know, it's a little more layered because like there's also a psychology to it. Like people are more likely to interact with a person that, you know, a ton of other people already like. You know, if I have a video, you know, let's say that I buy 150 thousand likes on it. I'm gonna get more interactions after those fake likes than I would with like just 20 or 30 likes on the board, because humans naturally have a herd type, you know, mentality now.
Mm. But I agree with that, but that's still the old system of how things work.
Right.
It's
You
not
know,
it's not
but
a new old system.
right. I mean,
But
like, but
go ahead.
realistically, the old system is still what's like controlling how we consume. It's like, yeah, we do have streaming services like for music and a ton of other things, but you go to all of the radio stations and you hear the same six tracks. Why? Because you know they're pumping money into the radio stations saying keep these tracks playing, to the point to where you have like 6-year-old kids calling in the radio stations saying, "Hey, play Super Gremlin," you know, and it's just like,
Yeah.
what?
But honestly, how I have rediscovered you is because you brought yourself into my space. You didn't wait for me to come out to a show or to hear you on the radio or to even buy the album. You were able to put yourself in a space that was not typically what you would have done.
Right,
And that's the new marketing strategy now. So, where can I authentically place myself
right,
that will still give me an array of people? One night of being in Funktopia, you already expanded your reach and your engagement beyond what you were already doing for years in
right,
maybe one run of that show. So it's being creative in your placement and your strategy for how you put yourself out there. Would you have ever thought to do a theatrical piece or to be in something theatrical?
it's crazy because no, I wouldn't have thought about it, but at the same time I should have, because all of my drama teachers were trying so hard to get me in the drama club in like high school, but they fired my favorite drama teacher, so I didn't do it.
Right. And what was happening was they wasn't seeing results from the students. So often they got rid of the programs because they didn't think it was relevant. Or they didn't think that program would be relevant because they wasn't getting the feedback from the students that they needed to justify hiring someone like that. And I'm just being a theater teacher myself. I've heard that several times.
Right,
But it's creative placement. That's why you have Rihanna or this artist or that artist or Kanye getting into fashion now, or putting themselves in movies or TV shows or podcasting. You're seeing artists because you to be independent, and that means without the machine. You have to get creative in how people see you, and
right,
not every. And so marketing, the one of the rules for marketing, you need to people need to see you or your product or your services in at least 9 spaces. Because by the time they get to the third or fourth space, they either love you or they don't ever want to hear from you again.
yeah,
So marketing is more is and you do have to have a budget for that, but in many cases you don't. Because one of those platforms could be you doing interviews on other people's podcasts. Another one could be you doing theatrical shows. So it's just creatively placing yourself in areas that one isn't typical, isn't um already overly saturated. So now the podcast arena is almost overly saturated. there are a million shows going live as we speak right now. So
Right.
that avenue is kind of like, every artist can't have a podcast because who's going to be your guest if they're already doing a show at the same time?
Right.
So figuring out spaces to be able to incorporate music. You see people who are non-traditional. We just got Viola Davis just got an EGOT, but she didn't make an album. Her
Right.
and the last piece of that puzzle was her getting a Grammy. Now Viola Davis can't sing, she can't rap, she's not producing music, but she has a voice. She knows how to speak, so she put her book to audio, and that's a category in a Grammy. So figuring out, if I can't get in this way, how can I authentically get in? Not just place yourself somewhere that's another open door, but how can I authentically do that based off of what my skills are and what my path is, and just
R-
connecting and making bridges to where I want to go. Now, in terms of your music, you know, what has changed in how you make music or how you perform? How have you grown in that area?
I care a whole lot less on when I perform now. Um, eventual hope to eventually start a fight at a show, but those
Did I
people,
hear you correctly, sir?
yeah. I mean, those people will never come out though. They're too scared. But um
So is that
yeah.
so your brand of music? So hip hop, that brand of is the beef still a marketing strategy, or is it if I create a real, I don't know, is that still real or is that just
So
marketing?
it's very real. I don't ever create beef. However, I will cook it if it's brought to me. I love steak. Um,
I cannot with you guys. I can't.
so no, that isn't a marketing strategy. But in terms of the group, we just do very like hype, sometimes aggressive music. That's more so Riot's. But on a personal tip, I've been getting more into kind of like R&B, some more experimental tracks. Just a ton of like cross genre type stuff.
So do you sing as well?
Yeah. Yeah, I've been doing that.
So we can't have all that aggression and trap and what is the other terms they've been using? We can't have all that in R&B. R&B is sacred. It's
Oh
the one
yeah.
sacred black genre. Is already a little murky because everybody can sing now, but we gotta be infuse a little bit more love into it.
Oh no, I have a ton of love for it. Like I'm not 100% aggression. Like I'm mostly love. I spend a lot of time fighting all of my intrusive thoughts, and all of that is love.
So that's how we get to love now. That's an interesting path
Yeah.
to take to love. It is struggle, but it doesn't have to be struggle. But
But people make it a struggle.
and that's my, and I think people in my age group and maybe older, that's our issue with artists, younger artists. It just feels like the struggle is being manufactured. Even though people are going through real things, it just feels like a lot of it is manufactured. So I've always, every time I sit down or have a conversation with another artist, I ask, can you be an artist without the struggle? Do you feel like you can be an artist without the struggle, the struggling artist mantra?
Yeah, I think if you can't exist as an artist, you feel me? Like, because being an artist isn't a situation, it's who you are. Like,
Hmm.
so if you dry up because, like you aren't sad anymore, then there's a good chance you weren't ever like truly meant to do this like forever. It could have just been a phase in your life, you know. But those who are meant to do art are always going to have a vehicle to do art.
Do you feel so tomorrow your account is filled to the brim? You feel mentally healthy. Can you still create the same way
Um,
with
I
the same
won't.
amount of passion?
Yes, I won't say that I can create the same way. However, I can create with the same amount of passion because I feel like that's all in what like want to do. I would probably pull a Jay-Z in 444 and start like preaching about, financial freedom and giving people steps to be able to reach that, or I might just step away from music and help out the community. You feel me? Like I feel like there's a lot of different ways to be creative in that sense.
Hmm. Are you at all afraid of uh losing any of that energy or um not being able to create in the same way anymore?
Nah, I'm not really afraid of it. I've dealt with it a couple of times, and I always come out on top. It's all just like when I tell people who are going through a writer's block, they come and ask me, hey, like what should I do? And I tell them, just like talk about anything. It doesn't matter. Like you can even make a song about your writer's block,
Mm,
because it's never really about um, like whether you're able to create or not. It's really about you having trouble like putting that on a page. You feel me? Like we get so caught up in how things are organized and put together, like that we don't take time to sit and harness those thoughts themselves.
mm. And then also it helps, and part of that marketing strategy and plan is putting yourself in art in general. I see a lot of hip hop artists. They don't know anything else but hip hop. I see it really bad in the spoken word poetry community. They know nothing else beyond poetry. So if you put another art form in front of them, typically they are lost or bored.
Yeah.
So I think helping that writer's block syndrome is really immersing yourself in art in general and not just going out to another open mic or going out to another, slam or something like that. But really immersing yourself. One of my favorite things to do is to go to the Walters Art Gallery. It's nothing ever changes there, rarely, but it's something about being in an art space that's not of me that
Mm-hmm.
encourages me to keep creating.
Yeah,
Or
they actually say that when you are having trouble creating, you should go to an unfamiliar place,
Mhm,
just just so you won't be too comfortable.
right. Have you been able to? Was that what theater was for you, or?
No, it's just kind of something that happened. I'm
Mhm,
like a perpetually moving train. I'm always moving forward
mhm.
unless I procrastinate, and then I'm just moving sideways
In
somehow.
place.
Yeah.
So where do you go when you need that uh space creatively?
Um,
Or what other art forms have you tried or participated or just observed really?
well, because I do a lot in music outside of just like rapping or singing, a lot of the times I'll just like go in my room and I'll make a beat, and that I can pour out all of my feelings on that, and I'll be good.
It sounds interesting. It's you know seeing you, like, it was just pleasantly surprising to me. I would not have thought that I would have seen you in that environment. Not that I don't think you could do it, but simply, I I'm always pushing for artists to scare themselves and do things that scare them and take them out of their comfort zone. And Baltimore is infamous for being just that. if you're a rapper, you typically only go out to rap shows unless you have a friend and you just want to support them and you go see a play or something. But I typically see us as artists only sticking to what we do. And I think that limits us. And that's why artists of other cultures typically win because they expand their mind so much beyond their full block radius that they have so much more to pull from, and they can easily, be over here and do something and be just as comfortable no matter where you put them or where they may end up or what they may introduce themselves to. But I know you have to run, but let me know, one, where do we find your music? Where are you performing at lately? What are you out here doing in these streets?
Um, I'm out here doing so much. But you can easily get up to date with everything. Just follow me on Instagram at Avenger underscore Azrael. I'll say it one more time. I'm Avenger underscore Azrael. For my music, there's a link in my bio. I also just got my own cologne that I got sponsored for by Scent Craft. Smells great. Um, right. It smells like sexy peaches, is the best way I can describe it.
Sexy Peaches.
Sexy peaches. But and then I wish you were here. My group has a show on the 26th in DC.
Okay. Okay. So send me those flyers and information. I'll definitely push it out on the on my platforms as well. I'm very proud, very excited to see you moving and out there. Uh, Last two questions. One, coming out of this pandemic, what did you learn about yourself as an artist, as an entrepreneur? Hey, Miss Pam. What did you learn about yourself as an artist, as an entrepreneur, and just as a creative in general?
Hmm. I know I'm gonna get a lot of flack for this one, but I don't think the pandemic really adjusted my artistry at all. Really, it just opened up opportunities because, like, I personally never was really that afraid of the pandemic because I wasn't in the at-risk group. I just kind of stayed away from anyone who was in the at-risk group. So,
But beyond just the health scare of it, we all of us had a little bit more time to focus on our art because normally when catastrophes happen, artists are the ones that are left to entertain you, and that ended up being what happened. But for a portion there, everything stops. It wasn't safe to really do anything. People were still out there living life, but for the most part, a lot of stuff was gigs dried up, things
yeah,
were being canceled indefinitely. We still haven't had an artscape or anything
yeah.
like that. But how do you, if at all, just how much time did you give to planning or preparing, or did you sit down and take that time as an artist to re-strategize or regroup yourself or put yourself in a different space?
I mean, again, I don't really think that COVID changed anything for me. Honestly, during COVID, I did more like personal things outside of art, and got my stuff together. But in terms of planning and stuff, I'm a person who I'm always like doing or thinking 20 things at once. So while I'm at work, I'm already, like thinking about new songs or new strategies I can take or like new opportunities I can get. It just never stops. So like hitting a situation like COVID, it was just like business is normal to me, where everyone's like, okay, let me actually start sitting down and self-reflecting.
Okay, that's an interesting. It's interesting that it didn't happen for you that way, because I think a lot of people was forced to take the time or chose to take the time or just had the available time, depending on who you were. Last question. What advice would you give to your 17-year-old self, and what question would you ask to your 100-year-old self?
17-year-old me, I would tell him to keep on going, push harder, and don't worry about anyone else around you. If they're really with it, then they'll keep up. Um, and for question for the 100-year-old me, hmm, I don't think I would ask the older me any questions. I would honestly just kind of be excited, to get there. I don't want
Mm,
any spoilers.
mm. So both of these questions, uh, to your 17 and 100-year-old self, it gives you a good understanding of where you are right now. And if you ask yourself this question in 3 months or a year or 3 weeks, it may come out, you may have different responses to that both of those questions. Um, I use it as either a writing tool or a meditation tool. Sometimes I'll just wake up in the morning during my meditation time, and I'll use those questions to help me journal, and I randomly do it. So, it's not like a everyday thing, but the responses that you give to both of those questions should tell you a lot about where you are right now as an individual, as an artist, as a black man, as a young person, so on and so forth. And I would challenge you to understand how you responded this time, and think about that answer in terms of where you are right now. And then
Right.
at some other point use it as a tool to kind of gauge, especially when you're going through a tough space. It's great to understand where I'm at. Like, it gives you an honest answer to where you are right now. Um, it sounds like you're more uh, excited about the past than about the future than you have been about the past, and that gives you insight to where you are, and it should be a great thing to understand and have that understanding and connection to self and it being in the moment. But I'll end the show with great job. Uh, I'm always here and always available to be a listening ear. Uh, and reach out to people more. Staying in your head a lot can can be great in the moment, but long term, um, it leaves you vulnerable to self attacks. Um, and that sounds crazy, but it's been
No,
how
it's
I've
right.
learned to grow in it. Because we blame a lot of outside things, but we often overlook that self destruction that can happen when everything is on the mind, and you are a natural leader. But I've noticed also you're not afraid to be taught or to learn something new. But that leader can sometimes get us into more trouble than what is what is worth, because we do everything on our own. We focus on everything, and we try to be everything for everybody, and that is detrimental to self more than any other thing or person that can be harmed by it. It hurts self more than anything. But just keep pushing and keep asking the questions, keep challenging yourself. Take time to just be still and just grow, get some better headshots. We have. I definitely do want to talk to you in terms of that marketing portion for you, um, just to give you some uh, input on that. I'm working now with the Black. I was about to say the Black Arts District. I did get it right. And we do a monthly series called Black to the Future, where we um, bring up these types of topics, and not only talk through them with you, but give you some resources. And we do like a mini workshop networking space for you to be able to work through a lot of those things. And then we listen to you and what your needs are. And then those are the people that we bring also to kind of help you, move through. It's not always about the dollar, but financial support can be a number of things. So really,
Facts.
uh, reach out, sir. Stop being hard headed. You're not grown yet. You don't know everything, and get some better headshots. Uh,
Most def.
it's been great talking to you. Anything you want to leave out there? You want to throw your social media out there once again? Thank you, Miss
Um,
Pam.
yeah, everyone. You can follow me at Avenger_AZRAEL and
Hmm.
stay tuned. I got a lot of cool stuff coming up.
Okay, okay. So I'm waiting to send me those flyers and tag me so I can share it out for you and
Most
come see
def.
it. Actually.
I appreciate you.
All right, man. Just have a nice night. Thank you for coming on. Second episode of the Artist Exchange podcast on the Artist Exchange Media Hub platform. Please continue to like, share, subscribe. If you want to be a guest, hit me up at TAE Media Hub. It's on everything. If you go to Artist Exchange, it'll come right up. Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, all those things. So peace out, people. Have a great night. Take care of yourself. Wash your hands. Ask for help if you need it. Don't go through life trying to take on all the battles on your own. Peace out. Good night. Sleep tight. All right, people.